again, we've been doing data center discovery, data center mapping for over 10 years now. I've watched the product evolve, and it never ceases to amaze me how the product team manages to keep up with, all of the change that's taking place in the IT industry. But just a couple of quick statistics. In those 10 years, we've saved our customers over $18 million in software that really wasn't being used in the environment. Helping people, prepare for audits, cutting that audit preparation time down by 60% on average. Understanding, the ability to capture every piece of software that's installed on a machine, as well as the processors that are configured in the machine and so on, and help you run those calculations, understand where those Oracle instances are, and so on. All right, 80% reduction in incidents caused by change. Again, one of the biggest problems that Gartner has recognized over the course of the last, and I've been quoting this statistic for over 7 years now, and it's still true, is that 80% of unplanned downtime, and I stress unplanned downtime, is caused by a change that's made in our environment. Having the visibility that ADDM provides can significantly lower that risk of an unplanned outage due to a change in your environment. And again, because we understand the full picture, when we're monitoring and we get an event, we can actually leverage that event information to understand the relationships that are associated with whatever that device was. We can understand maybe that a particular process stopped on a server, understand the business service that's affected by that, and then again, properly prioritize, properly go to the right place to look for the root cause of the problem. And then finally, the product provides a lot of capabilities for, doing other types of things. So when the Heartbleed error came out, we had the ability to very quickly create some queries within the product that would tell us all of the machines that could potentially be affected by the Heartbleed bug that was found. We've found countless numbers of servers that aren't being backed up, and I have to tell you this. There was, a recent article in Computer World that talked about zombie servers. They said something about there was a typical data center, 1/3 of the physical hardware in those data centers was considered a zombie server. It was consuming energy but not providing a business service. There were no practical applications running on those servers. I tend to find that statistic to be a little high, but I will tell you that ADDM, on average, will find somewhere between 10 and 15% of a data center has, or a data center population, the servers that are defined, whether they're virtual or physical, are simply sitting there consuming CPU time and, energy and everything else and providing no business service. That is a very typical find for us. So, and other types of finds that we find is those rogue servers that show up in your environment. So we can quickly identify those. How do we do that? Well, if we don't, as an IT organization, have the ability to connect to that device and pull back the information about that device, that's telling us that there's a device out there that's not being managed by IT. And again, we can go into that investigation mode and we can start to find that information. So with that, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a little break from my running my mouth and see if there are any questions out there that we might be able to answer.
Joe, thank you very much. Very informative and a lot of information there. So again, we are recording this and you'll have access to that in the next day or so. Also, we would be happy to meet with you one-on-one if you wanted more information about specific use cases in your environment. So we'll get you some questions here. Let's see, the first one. How do we see when a software app was last used?
So ADDM does not have that functionality, but let me qualify that. So typically for something of that nature, what we're going to need is an agent on the device that is actively monitoring that software startup and shutdown. Now, typically, that's something that we concern ourselves with more with a desktop device or an end-user device. In the data center, we don't see a lot of applications starting and stopping. Well, certain ones we do, backup and things of that nature. But it's not something that we're typically concerned with on a basis of understanding how often it's being used, right? So there are specific patterns of how software gets used in the data center, and we recognize that, but we do not have an agent that monitors those starts and stops of that application.
So within ADDM, there's not that functionality, but there is a BMC product called Client Manager, Client Management, that allows you to monitor that those applications and say who used it, when did they use it last. You can roll that data up into a report to see who's used things and when they've used it.
And beyond that, the ability to say that you will never use this application in my environment. So, yeah, that functionality is there as well.
All right, next question. I'm interested in knowing about the reduction in audit prep time and tracking down Oracle.
Okay, so again, we go back to the concept of well, let me qualify first that I don't think anybody has more complicated licensing schemes than Oracle. However, we're not providing auditable, well, what do they call it? Audit support in the realm of being able to quickly calculate the consumption of those licenses. What we have the ability to do, though, is to go out there and find every instance of Oracle that's running, tell you about those specific instances. Let me give you an example here. So if we go on and I switch my dashboard down to my out-of-the-box Oracle perspective, right, what I can get is I can get a view of all of the different flavors and versions of Oracle that are out here in my environment, what platforms they're running on, and again, very specific reports that would help me understand every instance of that particular application that I'm going to find. So again, if I need to drill in, I can do that. We also have the ability to go in and look at those software instances from if we go into my baseline dashboard, we can look at those software instances and find everything that's related to Oracle out here simply by, let's see, who's our vendor? Just the vendor I want. Yeah, so again, we can customize these views. We can break it down very quickly. So I can't count your licenses because there are so many ways to do that. But I can tell you the platform that they're running on, how many CPUs that particular platform has, how many cores per CPU. I can tell you that there's an instance and what flavor of Oracle is out there. And again, that's to help you prep to understand, to make sure that you're aware of every instance of Oracle that might be found out there in the environment. So when we talk about audit prep, it's about being able to understand and pinpoint each of those instances and being able to prepare for Oracle's team of people to come in and count those licenses and whatever magic they use to do that. And I'll tell you, my brother-in-law works for Oracle, and he can't tell me how they do that. What else do we have?
All right. So a follow-up question about the ability to see when a software app was last used. The product that allows that is BMC Client Management, BCM. So if you do a Google on BMC Client Management, you'll get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 websites that tell you about it. RightStar's website has white papers on that as well, and how we can help you with the BCM solution.
I'll take that a step further, if you don't mind, and let you know that BMC Atrium Discovery and Dependency Mapping and BCM the client management piece, the inventory portion of that product come as a bundle known as BMC Atrium Discovery Solution. So while you're only paying for the number of servers that you're capturing, which is the license model for ADDM, so for every server class operating system that we find, that counts as one license for ADDM. We don't care how many desktops, laptops, routers, switches, storage devices you capture leveraging that discovery solution. We still only charge based on the number of server operating systems. So it is available as a bundle, and we do recognize that there is a need for both kinds of discovery. Sorry, I had to throw that out there.
No, that's great. Next question, how does ADDM compare to LandSweeper?
So, not terribly familiar with LandSweeper, so I really can't answer that question. I've heard it mentioned a couple of times, and I'm not really adept on its functionality. I will tell you that, you know, as far as depth of inventory goes, depth of data captured, you're really going to be hard-pressed to be able to find a product that provides more out-of-the-box detail about your environment than ADDM.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen of the product, it does the discovery and gives you the ability to create relationships, but it doesn't actually create relationships for you. So if you've ever tried to go down that path and create relationships, it's a very time-consuming and ever-changing problem to solve. So the fact that that could be automated is a big piece of the ADDM product. Let's see. Last question I have, who are the consumers of this data?
Well, I kind of mentioned that a little bit throughout, but, you know, really and truly, the personas that we typically see leveraging the data in this product are the people that are frontline trying to solve a problem. They recognize an outage in a business process or in a business service, and they have one place to go to where they can recognize and see all of the components and all of the software that go into delivering that business service. So it's those guys on the front lines trying to solve a problem instead of having to bring, you know, again, Gartner says the average organization brings 14 people in whenever there's an outage into a war room environment, and nobody leaves, and everybody points fingers at each other until they figure out what the problem is. With ADDM, we can eliminate a lot of that finger pointing. We can eliminate a lot of that guesswork as to those pieces and parts and that siloed information that all has to come together in order to understand that service. Other consumers are asset managers that are looking at software lifecycle. They want to be able to rationalize license agreements with vendors. They want to see how many different versions of databases they have in their environment. They want to look and be proactive about understanding end-of-life information on those applications and operating systems and so on. We've got the change management people, you know, the CAB review board. They want to have detailed information about, before they agree to make a change to any critical business application that might affect the ability to provide health care or the ability to generate revenue or the ability to, you know, provide the critical services that their customers demand. And then finally, the operations people, right? Once we've got these service models built, we have the ability to train our monitoring tools to recognize that BMC actually recognizes out of the box with its TrueSight product these service models, and allows us to, when we capture an event on the network or from a server, we can actually have that create an intelligent incident within the incident management system that says, hey, we just lost email, and it's because of this, right? So those are the primary consumers of the data. That's not to say that you know, there aren't more, but those are really and truly the primary personas that we see leveraging the data within the product.